Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Time to Thrive podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Anna.
And I'm Haelle.
And we are going to be talking about our Bible studies that me and Haelle have been going through. She'll speak on hers first, personally, what she's been going through in her Bible study, and then I'll also speak on mine as well, and just some topics that we have or some things that stuck out to us. And if y'all want to share your study as we're going through talking about ours, you can always put in the description, or if you're listening to it on Spotify, you can go over to our Instagram and message us or anything like that. We would love to see those as well. So we're going to go ahead and hop it over to Haelle, and she will share with us her Bible study.
Yeah. So I've been back in Psalms. I studied Psalms, I think this past summer, and then I took a break from it. I only made it to like chapter 30 something, and I took a break and went to the New Testament. But I'm back in Psalms now, and I recently just finished Psalms 39, so that's what's been like fresh on my mind. And so in Psalms 39, this is actually one that's been specifically written by David, because as we know, like not all the Psalms were written by David. There's some anonymous writers as well, but this one specifically is written by David. And my commentary even said that this one specifically, they think that it was written at the end of David's life or close to the end of David's life. Yeah. And so in this specific psalm, David is really like considering like just like the fleeting nature of life. He's probably close to the end of his life. He's realizing like how quickly time does go by and how short life really is. And so at the beginning, like in verse 1, it's kind of interesting the way he starts it out, because even though like the title of the chapter is the fleeting nature of life, the way he starts it out is he says, he's praying to God, and he says, I will guard my way so that I may not sin with my tongue as long as the wicked are in my presence. And so he's kind of talking about, he's asking God's help and not speaking foolishly or sinfully in the presence of wicked people, even though like you wouldn't think that's how he would start off a psalm that's talking about the fleeting nature of life. But we see in those first couple verses that he's really caring about his testimony, which I think is really important, because that's important for us too. Like we see in the next verse that he chose to stay quiet. It says, I was speechless and quiet. I kept silent even from speaking things that are good. Because in the moment he felt like him staying silent was better than him trying to defend himself. But then later on, when he finally breaks his silence, instead of defending himself or speaking out against his enemies, he instead goes to God in prayer, being humble. And he says, make me aware of my end and the number of my days so that I will know how short-lived I am. He says, yes, every human being stands as only a vapor. A person goes out like a mere shadow. They rush around in vain, gathering possessions without knowing who will get them. And so kind of like if you didn't listen to last week's episode where Anna was talking about slowing down time and not rushing through things, it says we can be reminded in this verse that sometimes we do get distracted, we get busy, our busyness usually ends up being in vain. And then in this specific verse, the people that David are talking about, they're blind to the eternal things. They're more focused on their life now. But then David's like, no, like our lives aren't. Our lives are short. They do go by very quickly like a vapor. And so it kind of reminded me, and I think David wanted to like kind of remind the audience too, that the only real meaning we have to our lives is to have a relationship with God. Like that's our purpose here, is to bring glory to God, to enjoy him, to have that relationship with him, because that's the only thing that is going to last beyond our life. And then towards the end of the passage, he's talking about how he has expectation and hope on God, not on himself. He's seeking God to rescue him from his sin, and he was keeping sure that his focus was on God and not on himself when it came to his sin. And so the psalm, when you get to the very end, it ends without resolution, because it says in verse 12 and 13, hear my prayer, O Lord, and listen to my cry for help. Do not be silent at my tears. Turn your angry gaze from me so that I may be cheered up before I die and am gone. So in this specific passage, we don't know what it was that David was praying about, but we can kind of guess that it was he felt like he was being punished by God. He kind of felt a little distant from God. And the psalm ends there, like there's no resolution to it, but we can still see, like in this passage, that David appeals, he still shows up to God in prayer, and he still trusts God anyway, despite God not answering that prayer right away.
No, that's good. I like the verse that you had read where it says, rush around in vain. I don't know, where was that at? I can't remember.
Verse 6.
Is that what it said? Yeah. And like you said, kind of the episode last week where it said, haste makes mistakes.
I never heard that verse before until you read it.
Which it may be like my version, because I feel like I hear a lot, haste makes waste. Maybe that's another version, but haste makes waste. Haste makes mistakes. Probably, yeah. And then I thought that was cool how it said rushing around in vain. But kind of like I mentioned in the last episode, is I feel like our society is so go, go, go. But actually, I feel like our generation is actually kind of doing a good job right now of recognizing they're looking at their parents or their grandparents and seeing how they lived, and we're kind of, I don't know if it's making us more lazy, but we want to go on more vacation.
Down.
Yeah, and which is cool. I'm glad that we're acknowledging that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I think it's a hard medium to get in between, whether you're being hasty or whether you're being lazy. I think it's a hard medium, but
it's just finding the balance between the two.
Yeah.
Because slowing down doesn't necessarily mean laziness.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just taking time to be present with whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. I think both of them can go to an extreme, but like you said in your episode a while ago about how it is important to rest, how it is important to slow down. Because, I mean, if we're rushing around all the time, we miss so much. And then when we slow down, we're actually like, oh, wow. Either I need to fix this in my life, or I'm so grateful for these things that I have in my life. It makes us present.
I think there's sometimes we even can rush like our time that we spend with God too. And sometimes we get so focused on like, oh, I need to get this chapter done, or like we rush through prayer a lot sometimes. And so we kind of miss the whole point of what it is that we're actually doing.
True. No, that's good. That's good. Do you have anything else on that? All right. Well, I'll go ahead in mine. So I am now in Matthew. I haven't went into the New Testament in a long, long time. I've done like little things, whether it's like Easter or Christmas. I'll go in the New Testament, but I've been working through the Old Testament. So now I'm in Matthew. It's just so good. So one of the things, what I've been focusing on is, or the things that stuck out to me was in Matthew 5. So Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Mount. It's after Beatitudes, all of that. He talks a lot in this chapter, and I was actually thought I was going to talk about something else, and I actually read this last night, and I thought, actually, I want to talk about this instead, so it's super last minute, but the verse I want to focus on is verse 37 of Matthew 5, and it says, just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. So, with Jesus, he's talking here, and he starts talking about vows and making commitments to God, and you see in the Old Testament how making vows to God and swearing to God was, you did not, like, if you did not keep your promise, extremely serious. And you see that in Deuteronomy, you see that all throughout the Old Testament of how if you made a commitment to God, you are going to, you don't say it flippantly at all. And so Jesus is kind of reiterating that here, and he said, don't even make vows. Don't even make vows. Don't even make commitments to the Lord as far as I will do this, or I promise I'll do this by God's name, or I swear on God's throne. He said, do not. Don't even let that be something that you're thinking. And he says this in verse 33. He says, you have also heard that from our ancestors you were told, you must not break your vows. You must carry out the vows you made to the Lord. But I say, do not make any vows. He said, do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne. Do not say by earth, because the earth is God's footstool. And do not say by Jerusalem, for Jerusalem is the city of the great king. Do not even say by my head, for if you can't turn one hair white or black. He said, just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. And so that's kind of the context with this. And one of the guys I was reading behind, and he does a study, and I wish I knew what it was. It's on YouTube. I'll give it to Pam, so maybe she can put it somewhere, but he does a wonderful job going through. It's like 5-minute Bible studies. But something key made me start thinking, let me find it. It's how, with a simple yes or a simple no, how it's become so normal now for us to give our word or for us to make promises, and we just are like, never mind. Like, our word really means nothing now. It's been so easy for us to make commitments or say, I'm going to do this, or I will be here, or I'll do this for you, and whether an inconveniency comes in our life or something happens and we don't live up to our promises and we don't keep our words. And so we have to really change our mindset. We have to honor our word, and that's just something that you don't see a whole lot in our society now. And then one of the things that he mentioned, he said, well, what if Christians were known by their trustworthiness, by simply just saying a yes or a no, and also keeping their word? Like, what if people looked at Christians of, yes, we need to be hard workers and be kind, but what if also I know I can trust this person? I know I can trust their word. If they tell me something, they're going to do it. And if they're not able to do it, they will do all they can to make sure they do it one day. Because we know real things come up in our lives, and we sometimes we can't keep a promise, but how we react after that to tell that person, I'll do everything I can to make it up to you. And that's true trustworthy. It shows character. Like, I know in the old times you would hear all the time, I put this on my word. Like, you have my word. And you knew that person, they're going to get it done one way or another. And so one of the other things is it's so easy to speak when someone asks us to do something, when someone we want to do something for someone, or we make a commitment or make a promise. It's easy for us to just like rush into that or say, sure, I can do that, or yes, I promise I'll do this. It's so easy for us to flippantly say something like that. And so, like in Scripture, in Proverbs and Psalms, how it says, be slow to speak, and then it goes slow to anger, all of that. I think the slow to speak part comes in on this as well, where if we want to make a commitment to someone, actually take time and take aside your time to tell that person, I need to think about this. Because think about marriage. That is, you are making a vow to God. That is huge, but you're also making a commitment to the person. You don't just rush into that. That's something you think about. That's something you ponder. That's something you want the other person to trust you, to take your word for it. It's not something you rush into. And I think if us as Christians can have that mindset with giving our promise or our word to anyone else, I think that could be a very good trait that Christians have of, wow, the church is trustworthy. What I share with them, my concerns or what I'm struggling with, if they promise I will not share this, they won't. And so it's having that community, having that openness for people to share. So I don't know. I think that could be a positive impact for the church, the way people view the church. And one of the other verses, or I won't read all of them, but one of the verses that talks about the slow to speak, like I said, is in Proverbs 20:25. And then another one in the Old Testament, how it talks about vows. They're super weighty. If you make a vow to the Lord, you need to keep it, is in Numbers 30, verse 2. And something I love to bring up all the time, because I'm not a big jokester at all. Like, I can't take a joke at all. Like, I could take, like, a knock, like, tell me a funny joke, but I can't. I'm not a joking person at all. But in Proverbs 26, verse 19, it's so funny. My family probably hears me say this all the time. But Proverbs 26:19, it says, well, I'll start at verse 18. It doesn't really have anything to do with it, but it's a one sentence, and it goes into that. It says, just as damaging as a madman shooting... Oh, it does all go. Okay, so it says, just as damaging as a madman shooting with a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, I was just joking.
I've never heard that.
Yes! Yeah, well, it says, I was only joking.
Yeah.
So it says, just as damaging as a madman shooting a deadly weapon is someone who lies to a friend and then says, I was only joking. That is huge, and I use that all the time because we think, well, I'm not going to lie to my friend. But even just saying you promise to do something or giving your vow, if you don't do it, you lied. You didn't keep your word. And most of the time we can backtrack and say, I was just joking. I didn't really mean that. Or you took it a certain way. No, it says in Scripture, it is damaging. It hurts the other person as well when we don't keep our words, when we say we're going to do something and we don't. And so, again, going back to the slow to speak, and like the slow to speak part is probably my biggest thing that I struggle with. Like my words, I think actually one of my things for this year was have a better attitude. And so, especially with my words. So it's good to acknowledge when this was convicting for me of I do need to be slow to speak, but also if I want to make a commitment to someone or they ask me to do something, I think I should take some time, reflect on it, and not just right away give my answer. And people appreciate that. And of course, stuff really life-altering stuff, yes, it does come up. But I think if we can, I don't know, be people of our word, again, it's so hard, but I don't know, just have a different perspective of when giving our word and make it actually mean something. So,
That's good.
That's cool. Well, do you have anything else to add?
No,
Okay,
that's
I'll
good.
let you close it out.
Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments here on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify. Feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Bye.